You ready for the word? Yeah. You got your Bible with you? That's nice. You can hold it up. You could be digital. It could be leather. It could be vinyl. Just, hold it up. Let it glow. Let the papers sing. Hear that lovely sound as the paper turns. Luke chapter 18. We're in Luke chapter 18 tonight. When you get there, say I'm there. Luke chapter 18. Luke chapter 18, verse 9. Are you really there? I'm there. All right. This is one of my favorite passages in all of the Bible. And I hope that tonight it becomes one of your favorite passages. By the way, I just want to point this out. If you took video of this moment a few minutes ago, you can put that on Snapchat, Instagram, just hashtag.
YouTube.
Yes, even YouTube. Let's not forget YouTube, or Vimeo, or any of the other, or Vine. I did it for the Vine! But you can hashtag up. And look at somebody and say, I'm way up. Way up. If you walked in down tonight, I'm sorry, but by the time you walk out, I pray that you walk out with your head lifted up, you're encouraged, and you see a new way of living life tonight. Luke chapter 18, verse 9, is some who were confident in their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else. You ever known somebody like that? Yeah. Jesus told this parable. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. See that? The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector, he stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Grab a hand. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for another time to get together and spend some time in your word. I ask that as we read your word, it will inspire us and encourage us, that it'll even show us if we're in the wrong place in our hearts right now, and that you'll humble us and that we'll be ready to receive something from you. Jesus, we're not looking just for information, but as we ask every time, for an encounter with you, and that you'll change us in this process. It's in your name we pray. Amen. So on Saturday night, just want to encourage you with this from the beginning. God really loves you. He just really loves you. And if you haven't picked that one up this weekend, just want you to know that from the beginning. We said at the beginning, this is a community of people gathered from different places all across the Northwest, and even myself being able to come up and hang out from Oklahoma. But this is a place that is not full of perfect people. You've probably noticed that over the past 24 hours, but this is a place where people's lives have been changed by Jesus. And so we're thankful for him. He's not just changed us, but he is changing us as time goes on. Nobody's there yet. Nobody's perfect, and we're learning to walk it out together. But I just want you to know, if you're wondering about where you stand with God, God just is crazy about you. Jesus just loves you. And, I think about sometimes we get so caught up in how we want to look and how we want to appear like we've got it together. And the truth of the story is none of us really have it together. And that's okay, because Jesus did have it together. And Jesus took it to the cross for us. We're going to look at that tonight. But just don't miss that. If you enjoyed everything else this weekend, but you don't get that, then you kind of missed out on the beauty of what this whole weekend is about. And that's just, no matter what you do, no matter how far you go, God loves you. He's never giving up on you. And you got to know something else too. How many chances do you get with Jesus? I'm just going to say as many as you need. I think the best definition I've heard of the Christian faith is you fall down, you get up, you fall down, you get up, you fall down, you get up, you fall down, and you get up and you see Jesus. So, if you're trying to walk the road and be perfect, maybe tonight you lay down perfection and you embrace His perfection, His forgiveness. We'll look a little bit at that, I hope, here in just a minute. Just want to encourage you with that. Now, that being said, I told you a story last night about when I was in a bind. A lot of my stories happen in vehicles. That's partly because I spent a little bit of time with teens and college students, and that's partly because when I spend time with teens and college students, sometimes I'm the driver, oftentimes I've been the driver, and I have a problem, and that is that I get lost. Really easy. Does anybody get lost really easy? Who in here is like, I could tell you where north is from this point right now? Where's north? Yeah? Where's east?
Let me think. The street is north that way, so
East is here.
East, west, north. What do you say? East is this way. Due north. I don't know what due means, but north. So north is this way. Once again, no idea. Matter of fact, I have this unique ability. Sometimes I still get lost in Tulsa. I've lived there for 7 years. It's a big city, but it's not that big. Sometimes I'll have a GPS going, and I'll still get lost. I'm not joking with you on this, and it's very embarrassing. But I was driving back after a mission trip from Georgia. This is like my very first mission trip as a college minister, and so I'm like, this is going to be amazing. And so we stop in, and we play at the beach for a day after doing like a VBS for a week with this small church in the very southwest corner of Georgia, which was not quite the end of the world, but it was pretty close to it. It was like the city feels like a swamp. It's about 115 degrees there in the summer, and the humidity is just everywhere. And literally, there are gnats so thick in the air that sometimes it just looks like a black cloud moving towards you. So you kind of do this everywhere, just because they're just landing on you. So I learned that being in Georgia one summer. I mean, that's how people talk. Just it's pretty weird because I wasn't used to that at all. And then I came back after that, and I was kind of used to doing that. And there weren't gnats where I was, and I was like, people were like, "What are you doing? Get a tick?" Anyway, so no, I'm cool. So we're driving back from Pensacola, and we had a great time in Pensacola. But as we're driving back, the plan was for us to go northwest, but the problem was I was driving and everybody else was asleep. And so rather than going northwest, I missed a turn, and we don't just go north, we go northeast. And when I realize how far off course we are, it's at the point where we're not 60 minutes, we're not 3 hours, we're 6 hours from where we're supposed to be staying the night. And at this point, it's 7 p.m. And everybody starts waking up, and they're like, "Hey, how far are we?" I'm like, yeah, we're cool, we're getting close. Because I knew as soon as I told them it was over, so I can't tell any of the college students in here. We're like, yeah, I mean, I think we're getting pretty close. And I start thinking, like, what could we possibly do? So discreetly, they all fall back asleep. I call Motel 6 because we were living on the cheap. And I was like, "Hey, could you transfer our reservation to this place?" And they're like, "No, this is a specific motel owned by this person, and we can't transfer your reservations to this other city. So what are we going to do? Well, this is really bad. We don't have a place to stay." So I start calling the church office back in Tulsa. Nobody's there because it's a Friday and it's after work hours. I call everybody's cell phone on the staff as well. One guy answers, our Hispanic minister, Francisco Davila, and he had a connection for us. Now, we're trying to stay in Jackson, Mississippi. That's where we're going to stay on this night. We are staying this night, though, actually in Prattville, Alabama. I don't know if you know geography, but that's a state in the wrong way. We are going the complete wrong way. When they wake up and they realize that we are way off course, man, man, everybody was hacked at me. And this is kind of a pattern in my life. I get lost often when I'm driving trips. So much so that when I go on big trips with like in ministry and those things, I usually just don't drive. I'm like, could somebody else drive? I'll just hang out with everybody. It's not because I want to hang out with everybody. It's just because I don't want everybody mad at me. Anyway, this church in Alabama was like, yeah, you can stay with us. And they threw some homes together real quick, and we got to stay there. That was really nice of them. But I have a way of losing my way. Anybody else, you have a way of losing your way? I was down at 6 in Peoria recently in Tulsa. 6 in Peoria is pretty close to where a lot of the homeless in Tulsa live. And my friend Kyler and I are going into a coffee shop, and we see this guy who's probably about 6'5", huge guy, 6'5", about 270, and he's leaning on this yellow pole that's it's about this big, this wide, and it's about this high, and he's leaning forward on it. And I look over there across the street. He's right outside of this coffee shop, and suddenly this huge guy, he just takes a tumble and he falls down on the road. God, what is going on with this guy? So we sprint over there, we check him out, roll him over, because he's not responding at all. He's falling face first. Dude's about 55 years old. He wakes up. I say, what is your name? He doesn't know his own name. And the reason why is because I could smell the alcohol on him. And the alcohol was so strong that he was completely gone in that moment. I'm thinking as I'm trying to communicate with him, what is your name? What are you doing here? How did this guy get to this moment? 55, it's a cold winter night in Tulsa, and he's fallen down on the street. How did he get to that moment? He ended up looking at me and he said, after he said, what is your name? He kind of had a Caribbean accent. I was like, my name's David. And he looks at me, he's like, oh, David. My name is David. I was like, your name isn't David. You don't remember your name, so you're calling yourself David. I'm not kidding. He was so drunk, he couldn't remember his name. So we got him to a safe place. We called the cops so that they could come and take him to like a safe shelter, or even take him to a safe place for the evening. And Kyler and I sit down in this coffee shop as that scene's going on the outside. And all these young hipsters are sitting in this coffee shop, looking out the window, no idea what's going on across the street with all these flashing lights. We know what's happening with this guy. People are thinking, what's going on over there? We know what's going on. But the question behind it is, how did that guy ever get there? What happened in his life? And I don't know what happened exactly, but at some point, the dude lost his way. Like I said at the beginning, I don't think that anybody's outside of the grace of God. And I think that no matter where you are at any point in your life, God can show up in your life and turn things around for you. And I hope that happens for him. Here's the first principle that I want to share with you tonight. This is like probably the deepest thing you've heard all day, okay? You ready? Wherever you are, there you are. Okay? Look at somebody and tell them now. Wherever you are, there you are. Your mind's blown, isn't it? Your mind's blown. Did you know that you spend a lot of time pretending you're not where you are? Thinking about where, like, the places you wish you were? Like when you're hanging out by yourself and then you see all your friends on Instagram who are hanging out together, or the people who aren't your friends, but you wish that they were your friends, and you're like, man, I wonder what they're doing, why didn't they text me? Or, you know, did I get the pity text? Like, I mean, it's a little bit late in the game, and, you know, like, you can spend a lot of your life not where you are. But tonight, wherever you are, there you are. And that's the situation as is. That you can pretend you're somewhere else. You can pretend even that you are someone else, but in reality, you're just where you are. You're just who you are, and wherever you are, there you are. Now, I'm going to use a word tonight I took from a guy named Carl Lentz, and the word is your street. Okay? Your street. Wherever you are, there you are, and there is your street. Thanks for the water. Because a lot of times, you and I, we pretend or we try and get to someplace else, and we miss out on the opportunity right there in front of us. How much time do we spend? How much time do you spend? We were just being honest in comparison. How much time do we spend talking about people who are living a different life than us? How much time do we spend maybe putting shade on somebody else because that makes us look a little bit better? How much time do we spend sometimes going, hey, you know what? I'm not the best person in the world, but let me tell you something. I don't know this person right over here. So I may not be the best Christian, but at least I got it going on a little bit more than the dude that sits in Peoria who's drunk out of his mind. At least that's not my life. We can get in this nasty comparison game. And what happens when you get in the nasty comparison game, or just a checked out existence where you're not living, where you're not occupying your present place, your street, is what happens is you usually end up on the wrong road. This is where people hang out for a long time. They end up on holier than thou highway. They end up on the big loop of lust. People will end up on the self-righteous road. I mean, you can spend all your time on a different street than where you actually are. I wonder just tonight, how many people are cruising on Apathy Avenue. Just cruising along, like don't really care about a whole lot of anything, just kind of coasting as you go. And the Son of God gives his life for us. And we say, man, that's cool. Pass the nachos. We got places to be and things to do. Let's move on, because that's a nice part of my life. But we miss the fact that God took us from the street we were on and rescued us from all of it. And so tonight's specific talk is called A Street Called Mercy, or alternate title, Look Up. A Street Called Mercy, or Look Up. I'm just saying, everybody in here, we've all lost our way. Every one of us. We've all lost our way. In Luke chapter 18, it spells it out in such a powerful way. Let me read this again. To some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else. Can you smell the pride in there? You ever just kind of almost sniffed arrogance off of somebody? Doesn't that just kind of wash all over you? You're like, oh man, I don't want to be around that. That's fake. That's not real. Or maybe that's actually real. And if that's real arrogance, I definitely don't want to be around. I don't want to build my life around that. There's this group of people, the Pharisees, who are so self-righteous and then look down on everyone else. And Jesus told this parable to them. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed. This is what he says. Think about all the things you could pray. This is what he prays. God, I thank you that I am not like other people. I thank you that I am not like, let me name a few. Robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. God, I am so thankful. I'm so thankful that I'm not like the guy at 6th and Peoria. I'm so thankful that I'm not like that family. I'm so thankful that I don't have those problems. I'm so thankful that I'm not that bad. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Can you hear that? Can you hear the heartbroken sound? I mean, a man just not even looking up to heaven. He won't even look up. I want to point something out in this story. It says, at the beginning of it, 2 men went up to the temple to pray. 2 men went up to the temple to pray. When you think about a temple, what do you think about? Tell the person sitting on your left or right. You choose. What do you? The first word to come to mind when you hear temple, what do you think of? I think religion. I think good behavior. I think do good. What do you not do at a temple? All right, bring it back in. Bring it back in. We'll give you a different word. Anybody ever played by the rules of like, hey, when we're at the church building, there's some words that we don't say when we're at church. Yeah. And there's some words that we say when we get back in our car. There are some songs we listen to at church, but there's some songs we don't listen to at church, if you know what I'm saying. So just no, we do whip and nay-nay at church. That is one thing we do. We will whip and nay-nay until Jesus comes back. Congratulations, that's the only thing that they remember from the weekend. I saw the camera staring at me during that. I don't know who's watching. That's me. Look. 2 men go up, maybe in our context, two men go up towards the church building and pray. Let's just leave it at temple. 2 men went up to the church building and prayed, and one went home justified. One went home justified. And, you think about it, and they both went up on the same street. It's actually the same street that they're on. One went home justified, the other went home self-righteous. One went home right with God, and the other went home, and he wasn't right with God. He was right with himself in his own mind, but he wasn't right with God. And I wonder sometimes, I wonder if we just totally missed it. If we've gotten so obsessed with the right steps, and if you do these 5 things in this order, then everything's cool with God, and our hearts are totally disconnected from that thing the entire time. If instead of a heartbroken sound that's like, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner, we're like, hey, you know what? I don't got to worry about it because everything's cool because I did the right things. Man, doesn't that sound a little bit like a Pharisee? It's about what I've done instead of what he's done. So what I want to do is I actually want to take this same story and I want to read it to you one more time. I've read it to you twice. I'm going to read it to you a third time. But this time I'm going to change just a couple words in it. Are you ready? That's what he said, yeah. Yeah. Luke 18, verse 9. Slightly altered version that is going to change how you view this passage forever. To some who were confident in their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. 2 men went up to the cross to pray. One a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, this tax collector, or any of these men on the cross before me. I thank you that I am not like them. But the tax collector looked up, saw Jesus on the cross from a distance, beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Why do you change that passage from the temple to the cross? Because God did not call us to a temple. He called us to a cross. And what's amazing is that the Pharisees had that same attitude when they put Jesus on the cross. Self-righteous, you did all of these bad things, and wait, what bad thing did Jesus actually do? He was getting in their business and stepping on their self-righteous ways, and they couldn't handle it. And their pride drove them to say, we're going to put you on a cross. And when he was on the cross, their heart remained the same. But who does God have grace for? And who God has grace for is the humble and the brokenhearted and those who say, you know what? I happen to know that things with me are not all okay. And I don't even have to pretend. I don't have to play. I don't have to act. I'm just going to tell you, things are not good with me. You may be a good person, but I know the sin inside of my own heart. And even Paul says that in Romans 7. The thing that I want to do, man, I can't even do that. I just end up doing the things that I don't want to do. The things I don't want to do, I end up doing those things. See, God doesn't call us to a temple. He calls us to a cross. One man went home on a self-righteous road, and one man went home and he was right with God. God does not call you, let me say it in a different way. God does not call you to religious performance. One of the things we said from the beginning of this weekend is that with Jesus, you belong, I'm going to say this, before you believe and certainly before you behave. But a lot of you in here think, man, if I misbehave for one moment, Jesus is like going to just be done with me. One of my friends was asked a question recently, and he knows Jesus in a really cool way. Just like Jesus is his Lord and they're also friends. And I love that. And this guy was like, okay, but what about these people? And he was talking about kind of a socially charged issue. I'm not going to get into it. But what about these people? They have this struggle. And, you know, what about people who are living this lifestyle? Like, do we just accept everybody? My friend Kent turned it around and he said, well, I guess the question is, who did Jesus not allow to be at his table? Who did Jesus exclude from his company? Because if you look at his company again and again, he's a friend of sinners. He's not running to the self-righteous. The self-righteous run at him. And he says, hey, there's grace and there's mercy for everyone who has a heart to receive it. I just wonder if maybe tonight is a very special night for every one of us, where we move into something that I didn't realize until I was about, I think I was 25 years old, 24, 25 years old. I'm laying in my bed one night, and this is like this powerful moment for me. Laying in bed, we had this huge college ministry event on that night. And when I was 14, I was baptized, gave my life to Jesus then. But I realized as I laid in my bed that I had done all these steps, and I was trying to prove myself to God, but I never asked Jesus to save me. And I kept telling everybody about a personal relationship with the Savior. And I realized that we had gone so far from even Romans 10:8-9 being like, well, you don't, it's not about confessing him with your mouth, it's all about the baptism, that I missed out in the process that there's a very real relationship that you can have with Jesus. And he wants both. Jesus wants us to call on his name as our Savior. Because it's a real relationship. And Jesus wants us to be baptized in his name. But he doesn't just want us to do steps and walk through life and have hearts that are far from him, that haven't been turned over to him, and say, God, you can have everything about me, and I'm asking you and I'm trusting you to save me. See, there was one man who stood at a distance and wouldn't look up. And he was on that night, he was on a street called Mercy. And there was another man. And he walked in on the same street. But in his heart, he was still on the self-righteous road. And one went home right with God. And one went home right with himself. But things weren't good with God. God doesn't call you to religious behavior. He calls you to a life of love. He calls you to something authentic. He calls you to something real. He calls you to a cross. He calls you to something where Jesus says, you know what, I'm going to open my arms wide. And when you think of me, there's a resurrection that comes on the other side of this. But the symbol that will be there for everyone forever will be this cross. And people will know me by this cross. And Jesus even says in the book of John, when I am lifted up, I will draw all people to myself. I wonder, is that somebody here tonight? Where you just haven't let yourself be on the street called mercy because you've been trying to do the Jesus thing on your own? You've been trying to get yourself clean and then come to God? You know, one of the things I love about baptism is that baptism washes away our sins. It says that, right? And it's so interesting how we try to clean ourselves up and then go and get washed. Why don't we just let Jesus do the thing for us that he promised he would do? We start trusting in him. We start thanking him. We start saying, man, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I know I don't deserve this. And if you didn't step in for me, I know I wouldn't be going anyplace good. But because of this, my life's going to be different forever. Your street is wherever you are. Now let's get really practical about it now. If you live on a street called mercy, then you're going to invite other people to a street called mercy. And if you live on a self-righteous road, you don't want to invite anybody there because deep inside you know that you're not that good. I know that I'm not that good. So I don't want to invite people into a self-righteous life where we try and make it all about how good we are and how much we can do. I say, man, at the end of the day, I think it's about what he's done. So I just was thinking tonight, since God doesn't call us to a temple, he calls us to a cross. What if we spend some time in worship? So Caleb, come on up. But before we actually go there, I want to take a moment and have us pray something that we actually see in the Bible that Jesus says is a really good prayer. And the prayer is very simple. You ready? The prayer goes like this. God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Everybody just bow your head real quick. Walked in here tonight. God has mercy on those who have a broken heart who call out to him. And so, just here in this place tonight, something as simple as that. You say, you know what? Maybe I am a Christian already, but I know that I need mercy. Or maybe you say, I'm not, I'm far from God. You say, tonight, something's moving in my heart, and I'm making a statement, and I'm reaching out, and I'm saying, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. This could be the most amazing night of your life to reach out to God in a very personal way and to trust him with your life and say, I'm going to live on a street called mercy. I'm going to look up to the cross. That's where my life is going to be. I'm going to live from there. I'm going to worship from there. I'm going to see a cross. I'm going to look up and see him. I'm going to look up and see his love. I'm going to look up and see he is for me. I'm going to look up and see he is with me. I'm going to look up and know that God is never going to let me go. And that when Jesus went to that cross, it was forever. And when he said, it is finished, it's because the work was finished. And so I look up and I say, yes, I trust you. I give this to you. And I'm just opening up my heart saying, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. So if that's you in here tonight, and you're just saying, hey, you know what? I just want to cry out to God. It's a very simple prayer. And so in your time as you want to, just God, have mercy on me, a sinner. God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And you can pray that as many times as you need to tonight. I pray that many days. Just God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And it keeps me where I need to be with God. It keeps my heart where it needs to be, close to him, knowing he's good. And because of him, I have something good. And greater is he living in me than he that is in the world. So if you just want to take a minute and in your own heart just offer that up to God, you can lift up your voice and say it to him. But we're going to go into some time of worship here. Tonight, let's live on a street called mercy. And let's walk out of here on a street called mercy. Let's keep our eyes looking up to the cross. not to a temple, because it's not about your own righteousness. It's about what he's done for you. God calls you to a cross, and to live from that place and to live for him is going to be a beautiful thing. So God, have mercy on us. We are sinners. God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And we don't deserve it. We thank you for it. God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And as we worship, I just want to encourage you to pray that, to lift that up. If that's in your heart tonight, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. And lift it up and know that he is for you, he is with you, he loves you. He's never giving up on you. He's here to save you.